So yesterday we did a video on the difference between selfish and self-interest choices. Well, we had a question asking about if it's different in making selfish and self-interest choices when you're in a relationship. So we're going to talk about that today. So it's easy to see why a person may think that when you're in a committed relationship, making selfish and self-interest choices are different than if you're single. But that's true about anything. Anytime we're in a committed relationship, things change because we want to take into consideration the other people that are part of our life. So that could just be our spouse, but it could also be our children. And that's oftentimes where it gets a little bit difficult, because sometimes we have this belief that anytime we do anything for ourselves, that we're being selfish. And that's not the definition of selfish that we use here at Principle-Based Living. A selfish decision is one that does not benefit us and it does not benefit anyone else. A self-interest choice is a decision or a choice that does benefit us and it does benefit others, which means when I'm making a decision or a choice to take care of me in a healthy way, that's a self-interest choice. That is not selfish, because if I don't take care of myself, ultimately what's going to happen? And a good example of this is, if you've flown on an airplane, they always tell you that if there's a need for the oxygen masks to drop and you have a young child with you, that you're told always to put yours on first and then take care of your child. Because if you're taking care of your child and not taking care of yourself, and then as a result you become incapacitated, then who's going to take care of your child? So in any relationship, in order for me to be healthy and a contributing part of the relationship, I need to take care of myself. Now, the question comes into play of, well, when am I taking care of myself and when am I being selfish? So that comes down to communication and being able to talk about, well, what are the roles and the responsibilities that we have in our relationship? And that's all negotiable and that's all preferences. There isn't a right or a wrong way of, how a couple should live together. And so what we need to do is just be clear on who we are and what we need, and be willing to be honest and to share that with our partner. Now, here's sometimes where other problems arise. So we forget to follow principles, or we forget what the principles are. And anytime we try to violate those principles or go against them to defy them, then we're going to end up experiencing some challenges, in our life because of that. So let's just talk about what the three foundational principles are, and those are accountability, choice, and control. So accountability says that I'm accountable for my life, no one else. So not my spouse, not my children, not my parents, nobody else. I'm responsible for myself and the decisions and choices that I make. And therefore, I'm responsible for the outcomes of my life. So I'm responsible for where I'm at right now, because it's the decisions and choices that I have made that have gotten me here. And I'm responsible and accountable for the choices that I make right now that will get me to where I'm going to be tomorrow and next week and next year and 10 years down the road. So that's accountability. The second principle is choice. And that principle says that in any circumstance or situation, I have a choice. And I have a choice over three things. I have a choice over my conscious thoughts. I have a choice over my emotions, because my thoughts create my emotions. So by choosing my thoughts, I'm choosing my emotions. And then I have a choice about my behavior, of what I will do. That's it. That's all I control, or that's all I have choice over. And then the third principle is the principle of control. And the principle of control says there are only three things that we have control over, and that is the things that I just mentioned: our conscious thoughts, our emotions, and our behavior. Everything else is influence. So let's take a situation in a relationship where my partner is not doing the things that I think my partner should do. And it's irritating me and annoying me. Maybe it's making me angry, or maybe it's making me sad. So that's my belief, is that I'm unhappy in the relationship because of what my spouse is doing or not doing. Is that belief correct? Is that belief true? Is it based on principle? Can my spouse do anything to make me feel sad, disappointed, hurt? Or is that a choice I make? So my spouse is free to do whatever he or she wants to do, and what they do can't make me feel any certain way. It's my thoughts about what they're doing or not doing that determines the emotion that I'm experiencing. So if I'm sad in my relationship, or I'm unhappy in my relationship, the real question is, why do I want to be unhappy? Now, that may sound kind of harsh at first, and you may say, well, I don't want to be happy. In fact, if my spouse would just quit doing this or start doing this, then I could be happy. It's a false belief, because your spouse may stop doing those things or start doing those things. But guess what? You will then find something else to be unhappy about. And it may be your spouse, it may be your child, it may be your neighbor, it may be the president, whoever it is, but you'll find a reason to be unhappy, because there is something that you get out of being unhappy. There's a payoff for everything that we do. And so by understanding that if I'm unhappy, it's not because of my spouse, it's because I'm choosing to. The cool thing about that is now you have the control back over your life. And if you want to be happy in that relationship, you can be. That's the lesson that Viktor Frankl taught us from in Man's Search for Meaning. And his experience in the concentration camp is he saw and observed that in that environment, people still got to choose how they felt about it and how they responded to it. And so let's say that I'm in a relationship, and let's say I look back at it and now I've learned some things, and I realize that when I got into this relationship, I did it for selfish reasons. So I made selfish decisions and choices. I got into a committed relationship, and now I'm unhappy. Now what do? Well, if I think that the solution exists outside of myself, then the solution is that I need to get a divorce and I need to find somebody else who will make me happy. That's a false belief. I need to realize that happiness comes from within. So could I stay in a relationship that I'm unhappy in, and could I turn it around and find a way to be happy in that relationship? The truth is yes. Now, if you're in an abusive relationship, that's definitely a reason to leave. Oftentimes, if you're in a relationship where there's addiction and it's harming the other people in the family. So there are times when it is in my self-interest to leave. But if I feel like I need to leave because of what the other person is doing or not doing. So let's say that my spouse is a slob and they leave things around everywhere and it doesn't seem to bother them at all, but it bothers me. Well, who has the problem? Do they have the problem, or do I have the problem? Well, they're okay with the way things are. So the problem is with me. But maybe I don't want to change me. I want to change somebody else. So I'm going to end up being frustrated my whole life because I'm going to try to change things that I can't change instead of the things that I can change. Now, another reason in a committed relationship where it may be difficult to make self-interest choices is because we have a fear that if we make a self-interest choice, if we don't do what our partner wants us to do, they're going to be angry at us, or they may leave us. Well, the truth is they're free to choose to feel whatever they want to feel and to do whatever they want to do. If I'm behaving in ways that are trying to control the way they feel or what they do, now I'm out of control. And I'll end up, as a result, being unhappy in doing that, because by trying to make somebody else happy or to control somebody else, I'm giving away my control. And the end result of that is I will end up being unhappy and actually create more of what I don't want. So the answer to the question is living by self-interest choices in a relationship different than outside of a relationship? No, it's really not. It just may be that the consequences are different, and it may be that we have to think through things a little bit more. But the truth is, if in a relationship I will live by making self-interest choices, what it will do is influence my spouse to make better choices themselves. Now, could my spouse choose to leave because I begin to change who I am and to begin making better choices? Yes, they could. But your partner could choose to leave even if you didn't make those changes. So that would be a belief that I caused them to change. No, it's their thinking about the situation that caused them to do what they ultimately decide to do. So the truth is, we can only control ourselves. We can't control other people. And we need to look at, why are we making the decisions and choices that we're making? Is it truly benefiting us? Is it in alignment with truths and principles? And if it is, then we just need to be able to trust that as we make those choices, ultimately, we will have the happiness that we're seeking, and it will help other people find the happiness that they want in their lives, because they will either make changes to align their behavior with principle, or they'll go the other direction and continue to experience the consequences of those choices until it gets painful enough, or until they've gone through it enough times that they realize what I'm doing isn't working and it's time for me to begin to make a change. Thanks for watching today. Be sure and subscribe to our channel. And if you want to be part of what we're doing or know more about what we are doing and who we are, visit our website. You'll find that at principlebasedliving.com. And if you're watching this on LinkedIn, be sure and follow me here.